Hey, I'm Renika. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be about all the very basic things that you need to record music from your very own home. Now, this is how I got my start, is learning on YouTube University how to record myself. I was originally a songwriter and decided I want to actually hear my songs come to life. Like, I don't want to just have these things be on sheets of paper. So I hopped on YouTube, learned how to record myself before I eventually did go to school for a couple years for audio engineering specifically. But I would consider this as me giving back to where it all started for me. So let's get into all the equipment that you're going to need when you're just getting started out and recording your own music. Number one, you're gonna need a microphone. You're gonna need something to capture your voice. Now, this microphone that I'm talking into right now is an Encore. Oh, let me check. Yeah, a Blue Encore 100, and this was about $100. This is a dynamic microphone. You're either gonna find a dynamic microphone like this one, or you're going to find a condenser microphone like this one. And this one is a AT4040, and this is what I use on all of my songs that I have recorded and put out on streaming and all that stuff. I use this AT4040. And now the difference between what you would call a dynamic, which is this one, or a condenser, which is this one over here, is a condenser microphone uses something called phantom power, which is something that would come into play with your interface. Basically, it gets its power through the interface, whereas something like a dynamic microphone, it doesn't need that 48 volts. But when it comes to a home studio, I would say if I would go for a condenser microphone if you cannot do something like a Ford treatment, which I'll get into in a second, just because I feel that dynamic microphones do a better job at containing the noise from around the microphone. Like, it captures what's in front of your face, and you'll find that a lot of performers use dynamic microphones in live settings because it's very great at capturing what's right in front of the microphone, whereas a condenser microphone will capture a bit more of what's going on in those surroundings. And the reason why I prefer condenser microphones, though, is because I feel like they have a bit more life in the sound, and it's just what I prefer for my own vocals. So when it comes to picking the exact kind of microphone for you, I would do my research in that regard. Some microphones work better for different types of vocals. So if I were you, I would do some light research on microphones and which kind of microphone would work better for your kind of vocal. Sometimes if you are able to pin down a price point, that could really help. I got my condenser microphone for I think just about $200, and I will have all of these equipments linked in my Amazon account down below, and you could check out my storefront. It has all of the equipment that I use for all of my music. Okay, up next, you are gonna need a laptop. Now, I have seen people who can make things work with just recording on their phone or using phone apps, but I think it's so much more simple to record and mix and master once you get into all of that on a laptop, especially if you plan on really taking this seriously and expanding upon your music. And I just feel like laptop, it'll really get the job done. And now, what kind of laptop you go for, I would definitely suggest one that has a lot of, I'm not like super techie and nerdy in terms of computers and stuff, but one that can handle the power of, or one that can handle like high processing power, because DAWs, which are digital audio workstations, aka where you record your songs in, take up a lot of power and space and battery and all these things. So you need a nicely powered laptop for yourself. But yeah, one of the more important things that you need is a laptop, which you probably already have access to. And if you do, you got a head start, baby. Okay, now the third thing that you're gonna need is something called an interface. Now this is gonna be what connects your microphone to your computer. And I do have one right here that I can show you. This was my first interface that I bought, which was the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. It has one input for a microphone and one input for an instrument, which works for me because all I really need is one microphone, and I don't necessarily play instruments, but I do have a MIDI keyboard and things like that. I probably wouldn't plug it into this, but that's neither here nor there. So if you're first starting out, I feel like the Focusrite Scarlett Solo is a great starter for you. If you are a band, I would maybe suggest one of Focusrite's models with more microphone inputs and things like that. I'm currently using I can't pull it up because I'm recording on it right now, but I'm currently using I can't pull it up because I'm using it right now, but the interface that I'm currently using is the UA Aero. And this microphone and this interface has one input as well for the microphone, I believe. Okay, I'm lying. It has two. It has two inputs for microphones. But yeah, that's the interface that I'm currently using. And once again, the interface is what you need to connect your microphone to your computer. And now I don't want to skip over the fact that there is a such thing as USB microphones, which would be a microphone that you would connect directly into your computer, and those do exist, and this would eliminate the possibility of needing an interface. But just my experience with USB microphones, I just feel like the quality of them and the sound quality of them just isn't as great as it is when you go from a mic to an interface. So I would suggest getting an interface for yourself. Now the Focusrite Solo interface, I think I got the Focusrite Scarlett Solo for about 100 to 200 at the time, which is like a few years back, but typically around that price range. But I would definitely suggest Focusrite products as your first go-to. I think that they are great and affordable option. Now, the fourth thing that you're going to need is headphones. And this is not just going to be any kind of headphones that you need. If you are going to be recording, I recommend getting what they would call closed back headphones, which would be headphones that kind of hold the sound in your ears and have a much less bleed or noise bleed of what's coming out of the headphones. But if you are like me and you're someone that is interested in also learning to go into the mixing process with your headphones, then I would invest in a pair of semi open back headphones. And now these kinds of headphones let more of the sound out, which gives you a clearer, a clearer like reference point for when you're mixing. And once you get into mixing and get more comfortable with things like that, you'll understand how that makes sense. It's a little hard to explain right now, but if you're just going to be recording, I would get a pair of closed back headphones. So closed back headphones have less noise bleed, and semi open back headphones are more ideal for mixing because they don't completely trap the sound in your ear, which can distort what you're actually hearing. And mixing has a lot to do with the way that the sound is or can be distorted with your ears. So that's like a whole other kind of beast. And also, while we're on the subject of headphones, so I would say that if you are just starting out brand new, I don't think that it's entirely necessary for you to invest in a pair of studio monitors. And the reason I say this is because monitors are much more expensive than headphones. And although they are a great and very useful thing to have in your home studio, I have a pair of monitors myself. If you're just starting out and if budget is a part of your issue, I would definitely say that you are great sticking with a pair of semi open back headphones for a little while, especially if you are not super heavy into mixing, but you still want to get a little bit more of that, you know, clear reference of the sound. And what I did when I wanted to avoid a little bit of the bleed into the microphone is I just recorded a little bit lower, or I just turned down the sound in my ear a little bit more so that I could hear less of the noise bleed into the microphone. But once again, this kind of just depends on like what you in particular are here for. So if you're here for just recording, which you probably are, then I would say invest in a good pair of closed back headphones, or semi open back headphones if you want to get a little fancy and hear a little bit of the more true, authentic sound when it comes to the mixing world. All right, and the fifth thing on this list is going to be a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation. And now this is going to be what you record your vocals into. If you do have a MacBook, then you more than likely have access to GarageBand, which is a great DAW to start off with, especially if you are a beginner. I personally use Studio One. I feel like that is a great beginner friendly DAW that I really got used to and accustomed to even after I've learned how to use the bigger boys like Logic and Pro Tools and Ableton and FL and all of them. I always seem to stick with Studio One, and I would definitely recommend checking that out if you think that it sounds a little bit appealing. That is what I use majority of the time. I kind of bounce between Studio One and Logic, but I always find my way back to Studio One. So once again, a DAW is where you record your vocals into. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when I first started recording music, I was using Audacity, and it got me some experience under my belt of just like basic audio recording, but I would not recommend it for beginners. I'm gonna just say it like that. I would not recommend it. Just skip ahead and do yourself a favor, and if you have a MacBook, get GarageBand, and if you don't, I feel like even getting a free version of the DAWs that I mentioned earlier is a great option. I had the free version of Studio One for a while and it was fine for me. I just decided like why the heck not? Like, why not upgrade, you know? So yeah, that is my opinion on DAWs. Okay, sixth thing, I think we're on the sixth thing, is, I should have said this earlier, but you need a microphone cable, which is otherwise known as an XLR, and this connects your microphone to your interface. And yeah, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory, so we're just gonna zoom on past this one. All right, number 7 is a pop filter, this thing right here. Now, this isn't like 100% absolutely terribly necessary when you're first starting out, but it definitely is if you are really anal about getting a more professional sound, because what the pop filter does is it stops or it lessens the sibilance sounds, so that would be harsh S's and T's, and you can go ahead in the mix and try to lessen those sibilant sounds, or you can just make things a lot easier on yourself and get a pop filter, which will do that for you naturally in as the recording is happening versus trying to scramble and figure that out afterwards. So I'm just gonna throw in a pop filter in there, and they're typically pretty cheap anyway, so you might as well. Okay, so I just finished watching this video back and I was like, wait a minute, y'all need a mic stand. Don't know how I forgot to add that in there, but yes, you need a mic stand as well to be able to hold your microphone and your reflection filter if you're going to get one. I have a Dr. Pro mic stand, which is pretty good and pretty sturdy to hold something like this. Like, this is a little hefty, especially for a mic stand. Like, I can't just get like any regular mic stand to be able to hold this up. And also, you want to get a little shock mount, which a lot of microphones that I know come with their own shock mount, but just in case it doesn't have a shock mount, what a shock mount does is like it attaches to your mic stand, and if you were to accidentally like hit it while you're recording or any like thumpy sounds, it kind of collects that before it can like get to the microphone, if that makes sense. So yeah, get a mic stand, babe. Also, I know you probably have been wondering, or maybe you haven't, about what this little handy dandy silver thing is right here. And this is a reflection filter. Now, I know you've probably seen studios with like the foam kind of material things on the wall, or like the panels and all those things like that. This thing kind of acts as that in a home studio, and what it does is it helps to limit the amount of reverberation, or like limit the amount of echo that your vocal would be bouncing off of your walls into your microphone. Now, I'm someone that does not treat my space as much as I should, which would be treating it with things like studio foam and panels. But after a few years and like experience, I've kind of just learned how to work around that in the mix and things like that. So I find that whenever I'm recording directly into one of these reflection filters and just strategically placing the microphone where it needs to be, it does a pretty good job at not capturing all of the room noise and all of the echo of the vocal bouncing off the wall into the microphone. Because if you notice, there will be a much different sound if you were recording something like how I'm recording right now. If I were to be recording this with a condenser microphone without this filter, it would be including so much reverb sound, so much room sound, so much like just unnecessary vocal elements in the track. But this kind of does what we call like deadening the sound a little bit. It doesn't 100% do that. I could definitely benefit from some treatment in this room, but I'm a little stubborn, so I just have made it work, and I've been fine. So maybe you are just like me and you can go and pop one of these up in your space. Or if you're not and you have the time, patience, and money, you can buy some studio foam and panels and treat your room in particular. And now what I also do want to say while we're on the subject is, if you are going to be recording at home, you do want to make sure that you are recording in the room that has the best sound for you to be recording in. You should not be recording in bathrooms or kitchens. And the reason for this is because these rooms have so much natural reverb and echo. Like, I know when you go into the bathroom and you just sing and you're in the shower and you're like, oh, it sounds so great. It sounds great in real life and terrible in a live recording. So wherever you decide to record in your home, you want to make sure that it has the deadest sound, which tends to be the rooms with the most furniture in them, the most things like beds and couches and things with cushions and padding, those kind of things, or things with like a lot of clothes and stuff like that, because those kinds of materials help deaden the sound, which make for a cleaner recording. And maybe I'll go a little bit more into this in like another video, but yeah. If you're recording from home and you don't necessarily have the money to afford treatment or something like this bad boy here, then I would suggest to record in a room that has lots of just soft kinds of furniture. And I wonder, because if I do something like, And a nice trick to figure out which room is the best for you to record in: go into every single room that you are considering and just clap your hands. And the room that has the least amount of echo from that clap is probably the best room for you to be recording in. The room that has the most echo from that clap should be, take that off the list. And I'm saying all this because I had to learn this the hard way when I first started recording. Even though I wasn't like being serious, like this was like when I was recording in my phone, I would always think it was the best idea to record in my bathroom. And looking back on that now, I'm like, of course those recordings all sounded so bad because there was echo all over the place. So learn from my mistakes. That's what that means. Learn from my mistakes, huh? All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I've been having so much fun. Recording from home has been one of the best things that I could have ever done for myself. Learning how to do it for myself has been so rewarding, so challenging. There are lots of days where I cried because I felt like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But, you know, here we are. I've a few projects in and I am proud of every last one of them. I can only imagine that I just keep growing from here. And don't get me wrong, I still do like to work out of studio spaces, like official studio spaces, but there's nothing like being able to do what I do from the comfort of my own home. So I'm so excited for you and your journey. And please let me know in the comments if you have any particular questions about recording from home, if you have any questions about my journey as an engineer, as an artist. And once again, I'm going to link down below all of my equipment that I use in my studio and basically my recommendations for what you should also be getting for your first home studio. So yeah, I hope that you are living in your greatest purpose on purpose. I hope there's so much love in your heart, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.